So hello and welcome to IvyLearn Instructor Workflows. Today's presentation is about testing centers and proctor forms. My name is Kathy Long and I'm the Senior Training Specialist for Ivy Tech Community College. And joining me today, I have some fabulous experts from our testing centers who's going to walk us through the testing center services and also how to fill out proctor forms correctly. So I'd like to thank Brian Hamilton for being here, as well as a couple of his additional proctors from around the state. Jennifer Hammett, I believe, is joining us. Lacey, and then also Rebecca. So thanks to everyone who will be here. You're welcome again to answer questions or ask questions in that question panel at any time. Oh, we do have a question before we get started that the question panel doesn't seem to be working. If I can see your message, then it's definitely working. You will not see the question panel or what other folks are asking. So we'll do our best to ask those questions as they come in and answer them for you so everyone can participate. We will be answering your questions as well in the question panel, and you'll see that pop up in the chat box on your GoToWebinar control panel. So you'll be fine, I promise. All right. With that said, let's turn this over to the amazing Brian Hamilton. Brian, you should see a pop-up window asking you to accept presenter rights. There you go, fantastic. And make sure that your audio is turned on. Okay, Brian, I see that your screen is showing. I see that your microphone is turned on, but we're not hearing any audio.
All right, how about now?
There we go. Thank you so much.
There we go. Multiple mute buttons. Okay. Thanks, Kathy, for inviting us today, and thanks everyone for taking the time out of your busy day to join today's presentation. I certainly appreciate it. My name is Brian Hamilton. I help support the testing centers statewide, but work very closely, of course, with our campus-based testing centers who really run the show. We have two managers on the call today, and certainly as questions come up, let's take care of them. I do have an FAQ as part of my presentation, which we'll hit, but really wanted to be as interactive as we can today. I've pulled up here, Kathy, just confirm for me everyone can see my screen, and
Yes.
I'll start running through this.
Yes, sir. We're seeing your testing services PowerPoint presentation.
Great. All right. So wanted to first give an update or a little bit of information on testing services. Proctoring. Before we get started, I just want to give a few options, kind of set the stage a little bit and set the boundaries of today's presentation, although anything out of bounds might be appropriate too. But what we're going to focus on today is talking about for faculty who are teaching an online class and need an exam proctored, no matter where your students are at in Indiana. We're going to be focusing mainly on proctoring at Ivy Tech testing centers. I did want you to know, though, at the beginning of this presentation right up front, you do have other options as well. ProctorU, which I know there was already been a presentation on that here recently, for virtual proctoring if you have students out of state or otherwise can't make it into an Ivy Tech testing center. We also have options for non-Ivy Tech physical centers out of state, for those out of state candidates, students who want a physical test center. So those are options as well. But today we're mainly going to focus just on the process for having your test delivered in an Ivy Tech testing center. Okay, So just wanted to kind of set the stage there of what we're going to be talking about today. Who are we? We're Testing Services. We're a network of Ivy Tech testing centers located statewide. Our role is to promote academic integrity of exam administration of your tests. You are allowing us the opportunity to administer your tests. We want to do so in a way that promotes the academic quality that you would expect of having us do that. We offer all kinds of tests in the testing center, everything from our college's placement exam to program entry exams to distance ed exams or online course exams. So we do a lot of different testing in the testing centers. I'm just going to quickly zip over that. This next slide. So for you, faculty who are teaching online courses, you make up about 26% of our activity, which is a lot. We generally give, and just as a note of terminology, we often refer to this type of testing as distance ed, although I've been advocating for a while to change our terminology for that. We're still kind of stuck on it. So when you hear me use DE or distance ed today, that's what I'm talking about, is proctoring for online courses. So again, that makes up about 26% of our overall activity. Last year we gave around 50,000 distance ed exams. Most, as you can imagine, of those exams are delivered during midterms and finals week each semester. I just wanted to give you a snapshot of what last fall finals week looked like. If there's any way you can help us get students to register on Mondays and Tuesdays, we would appreciate it. Thursdays and Fridays get kind of crazy. But that just kind of gives you an idea of the kind of volume just for distance ed testing, both on a year basis and also for a typical finals week. So just thought I'd put that out there for general information. So all that's fine, but you're here today to really learn about how to find what you need to in terms of the proctoring form and instructions and all that. The best way to get to us, and really we've tried to eliminate multiple ways to get to us because that can be confusing. So I'll say the only way to get to us, I guess, in terms of the proctoring form anyway, is the Faculty Resource Center. The Faculty Resource Center is your one-stop shop for the proctoring form and that process. We did that intentionally because we didn't want the proctoring form in 1,000 different places and have you going all over the place to find that information. To me, that gets more confusing than it's helpful to have it available in a variety of places. So the Faculty Resource Center and IvyLearn. Now I will pause here just for a second, and this is a question that maybe Kathy can answer real quick, and I forgot to mention this earlier to her. The best place to go, again, is the Faculty Resource Center. Occasionally we do hear from faculty that they cannot get to the Faculty Resource Center. It's my understanding that if you can't get to the Faculty Resource Center, you'll want to speak with your campus OTC. They can help give you that access to the Faculty Resource Center. So that's usually a block I'll sometimes hear is, well, I can't even get into the Faculty Resource Center. So that's your answer, unless Kathy trumps me.
Yeah,
On that.
Brian, let me just jump in here really quickly. So to locate the
Yep.
Faculty Resource Center, you're going to log into IvyLearn, and at the very bottom of your global navigation menu, there's a question mark. That's your help button. And you'll see as an option that you can click the Faculty Resource Center. Now, we do offer protected content in there, like the keys to use Respondus, and it's really a faculty location where you can find information about testing services, Respondus, upcoming training events. You can ask questions to our IvyLearn community about things that are going on with IvyLearn and here in the college. So it's very much a faculty centered location for interaction. So the first time you request access, you want to make sure that you're using your Ivy Tech credentials. We verify usually within 24 to 48 hours that you are an Ivy Tech employee, and then we'll grant you access, and then you never have to go through that process again. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Kathy. I know sometimes we hear that, so I want to make sure folks understood at least how to get to it. So as Kathy said, the Faculty Resource Center has a lot of stuff in it. Certainly, if you haven't been here, it's worth a visit. But where you need to go to find access to the proctoring form and all those things, and instead of my PowerPoint presentation, I just brought up live the Faculty Resource Center. I'll get back to my PowerPoint, but I'm more of a show you kind of person than having it on a slide. So I'll get back to that. But right now I'm on the live version of the Faculty Resource Center. To find us, we're over here on this link called Testing Services. You'll find it under the Helpful Links section. Just click on Testing Services. And that brings up our page where we have, like I said, kind of your one-stop shop for everything Proctor form. There's lots of information on this screen, on this page, and we certainly welcome feedback on it. We know there's a lot of information you want, and we try to package it together. Before I jump into the proctoring form and the things that are on this screen, are there any questions up to this point that anybody has that we can address about at least getting here? All right, so once you get to the testing services page, this is where the proctoring form lives. And like I said, we tried to make the proctoring form available in one location only, just to make it less confusing as it can be. However, I always really encourage people, even before you open up the proctoring form, to take a look first at this instructions for completing the proctoring form. If you start with the proctoring form, you're probably going to start asking questions that are really already covered in the instructions doc. So I usually tell people, start with this instructions for completing the proctoring form. If you open it up, it will go through exactly what information is needed to fill out the form. Here's an example of the form here on the left, and it tells you exactly the information that's needed for each section of the proctoring form. And just goes through exactly what you need to do. I know every time I look at this document, I think the same thing that you do. Holy cow, this is a lot of text here. And trust me, we've had those discussions and debates pretty regularly. But it all is good information. And I think will help answer a lot of questions that you have before you get to the form. So just wanted to mention that. I highly encourage you to take a look at that document and read through it. So let me just jump back here. So let's take a look then at the form. Probably one of the biggest questions we get is about when it opens up. It is living in a Google environment. If you're not familiar with that, the first time you open it up, it's going to open up like this, which sometimes causes anxiety when you see it open up in this kind of view format. But have no fear. If you go up to the top and you click on the link that says Open with Google Docs, that's really what you want to be working with. So click on Open in Google Docs, and the document will open up in a little bit better format for you to use and fill out. So it loads in here. So once it loads, it's going to have all the fields that you need to fill out. Again, your instructions page will tell you a lot of this, but You want to fill in, of course, your name, your phone number, address, all that kind of good stuff associated with it. I'm just taking a second just to load here. And then any of these fields that are that you need to fill in terms of the exam name, allowed materials, all that kind of good stuff. And probably the part that our testing centers look for the most. I wonder why we're not loading here. Okay. I don't know why it's not loading where I want it to, but it basically has all the information that you need to provide to the testing center in terms of how can we get to the test in IvyLearn, if it is in IvyLearn. How can we get to it? Where's the location? Where's the passcode? Allowed materials. And the reason why the proctoring form exists, maybe I should have started with this, is really so we can make sure that we're delivering the exam in the way that you and or your curriculum committee wants it delivered. So that students have a consistent experience no matter where they're at in the Ivy Tech system, if they're testing in Evansville or Fort Wayne or all points in between, that they're having that consistent experience across the board. That's really the point of the proctoring form, in addition to helping us find the test in IvyLearn. That's pretty critical too. So that's the purpose. So once you have that filled out, and we'll go over some of those FAQs about filling it out here in a minute. I think probably one of the biggest questions we get about filling out the form, one of the biggest questions I get is, do we really have to name it this long, crazy thing up here? And you'll see that in the instructions with the course prefix, course number, blah, 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 all this stuff. The answer is yes, at this point. We do need the Proctor form saved in that format. I want to tell you a little bit behind the curtain about why, because it is a long file name. In order for us to effectively map that student, let's say you're teaching that course out of Muncie and your student is living in Evansville and they want to test in Evansville. In order for us to effectively map that student who requests that appointment in Evansville to this proctoring form coming out of Muncie, we have to have this information. Otherwise, your student may run into trouble when they try to schedule. So I know it's a long file name. I totally understand that, but that's the reason. We're really trying to map that student, no matter where they're at in Indiana in the Ivy Tech system, to your proctoring form. So I just can't stress that enough. We want to make sure it's easy for your student to come in and test. So I wanted to talk about that, show you the proctoring form.
Brian, can I stop you for just one quick second? Laura says that there are blank spaces on her document that she's also seeing on your screen. And she said the same thing happened to her last week when she tried this out and it wouldn't completely load. When she's having difficulty like that, who should she reach out to for help?
Yeah, let us know. This is the first time I've seen it, so now I'm even more intrigued that other people have seen it, and so that concerns me quite a bit. So when that happens, I think the best thing to do would be tell your testing center, or you can just fill out a help desk ticket and you can route it. If you're familiar with filling out a help desk ticket and routing it to different queues or different channels, direct it to the testing services queue, and one of us will see it and grab it. So that'd be my answer, Kathy.
Yes, and just to be clear, I don't think most faculty have the ability to route just using that help desk ticket link that's built in my Ivy and then also built into the IvyLearn system under that help button. It'll just prompt you to enter in your question and your information. So if you don't see that routing area, that's fine, but it will get routed to the right person. Someone will take care of that for you.
Yeah, they're really good. If you just submit a help desk ticket, and you're right, if you don't have any routing capability, just submit it right to the help desk, and the help desk does a great job. If your ticket has the word testing anywhere in it, they route it right to us. So they do a good job there at the help desk of getting it to the right place. That is interesting. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole too far, but about that form not loading correctly, but I am going to right after this call um,
Okay.
kind of dig into that a little bit.
Well, Brian, if it
So it's
helps,
good to know.
Jeff says that his downloaded just fine. But then we also had someone message me privately about Mac users.
Yes. Yep. Uh, I can transition into that absolutely. So and you'll see when I bring up the FAQ later, the very first FAQ is for Mac users. It's a pretty common question that we've gotten, that we're continuing to work with IT on how to best set up this form for Mac users. There's a known issue, and quite frankly, it kind of stumbles IT a little bit because it doesn't occur for every Mac user, just for some. And anytime you have an issue like that, it just makes it a little bit more challenging. So that is a known issue that for some Mac users, we even spell that out here on the page. One or two of the fields won't work, and so if you are a Mac user and you have that problem, we've created this other version of the form, which I'll click. It says use this form. It's also the same form that you might use if you need to handwrite your proctoring form, but I'll get into that in a bit. But you can just use this version of the form if you are a Mac user and you're having that issue. Try that version and sending that in to your testing center. So I don't have a great answer, but it is a known issue, unfortunately, that we just haven't gotten a handle on exactly how to get that fixed. I worked my way out of the page. I get back here. But yeah, that's something we know is out there, and we've got some headway on it. I think we've got it down to just one or two fields that are causing problems, but certainly keep us informed. Let your testing center know, let us know, because we need to get that fixed. We have to get that right. Let's see. So with the form, the other thing I wanted to mention too, if you've been with the college for a while, and we thank you for teaching with the college for a while. We certainly appreciate that. And you may remember that previous to this iteration of the process, every faculty person would have to submit individual proctoring forms for all their students in the class. And they would have to kind of figure out where their students were testing. So what we heard from faculty loud and clear was, you got to fix that. You've got to make it so that I'm teaching the class out of Muncie. It doesn't matter where in the Ivy Tech system they're testing at. I shouldn't have to worry about that as a faculty person. I don't have to know that 3 are testing in Evansville and 1's testing in Gary and 1's testing in Terre Haute. And you're right, you shouldn't have to worry about that. And so that's really what we've tried to do with this new, and I say new, we've been doing this for about 2-3 years now, this newer approach. So one of the questions we get, and I think it's a carryover from the old method, is where do I send my proctoring form? Where do I send this thing? And I want to show you the answer to that is on this link here. So instead of, and this link says where to send your proctoring information, I'm going to click that link. Instead of having you send your proctoring forms across the state, you're really just sending it to your testing center. If you're teaching a course out of Anderson, you send your proctoring form to this email address. If you're teaching a course out of Indianapolis, you send your proctoring form to this email address, and so on and so forth. and then it's their responsibility at that testing center to make this proctoring form available statewide. Okay, so they're going through a process when they receive that in Anderson. If you're teaching the course out of Anderson and they receive it in Anderson, they're going through a process of making that proctoring form available statewide. Okay, so you don't have to send it to 1,000 campuses. You just send it to your testing center for where you're teaching the course. And I guess the only time that gets a little bit weird, I guess, let's say you're a Muncie instructor, your home base, that's the wrong term, but you're a Muncie instructor, but you're teaching a course that's coming out of Marion. Then in that case, you would send the proctoring form to this Marion address. It's really tied to where the course is originating out of, if that makes sense. So I wanted to, because that is one of our frequently asked questions, where do I send the proctoring form? So hopefully that answers the question. Where do you send it? That's where. So I wanted to show you that today. I'm also going to mention, just real quick, remember when I said at the beginning of this presentation, you've got options in terms of other areas. You can have proctor your exams. There is a link to the Proctor U info here, and also for off-site or out-of-state proctoring options. We also have those links here. Now, our wonderful colleagues in online technology did some really nice and really well done handouts that you can use to help fill out the form. I was going to give the campus credit who created these, and now it's just totally escaped my mind. But one of the C4 IT camp OTCs put together these nice handouts on how to download the proctoring form and save it, how to complete the proctoring form, how to email the proctoring form, just to kind of give that extra level of support so that you would know how to do each of these things. So these are really good resources for you if you're having trouble filling out the form or anything. And of course, as I always say, your testing center should be a great resource as well. So I'm getting ready to flip back to the presentation where I've got the FAQ, and I really want to open it up this last half hour for discussion. But before I flip back, or as I'm flipping back to my presentation, are there any questions at this point?
Brian, Kathy had a question. She says, as an instructor of a hybrid course, I have found I still have to type everyone's name on my proctor form. Is that because I am not online? Question mark.
I wonder why. I'm still trying to understand why you, Jennifer or Lacey, can you help out with that one for hybrid courses? That one kind of has me stumped because we may not need to have you do that for hybrid courses. This proctoring form does have a roster, which we don't really use a whole lot anymore for the type of courses we're talking about. So let me look in. Kathy, what campus are you from? If I can, or who was it that asked?
Yeah, Kathy Hilbert is her name.
Okay.
And she's from Richmond.
Great. Kathy, I am going to dig into that a little bit for you. So I'm not sure we have to have that for hybrid courses. Maybe there's a reason I'm just not thinking of, which is entirely possible, but I do want to research that a little bit. And I will for you, and we'll get some information out, and I'll probably add it. I'll send you the information directly, but I'll probably add it as well too. Okay.
Okay.
What was Kathy's last name in Richmond?
Hilbert, I will email you her contact
Perfect.
information.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
Okay, and it looks like Felix is still unclear on if he needs to download and submit the handwritten Proctor form or if you email it to the campus where you're teaching. Could
Yep.
you just kind of go through the digital process for that? Felix has a PC or an IBM computer.
Great. Okay. And that's a great question, and you'll see that on the FAQ. So I'm glad to know that it's a question that's still out there that we can answer pretty easily, I think. Some testing centers and some faculty wanted the ability that if I'm teaching that course in Marion, my office is 2 doors down from the Marion Testing Center. Um, the question was, hey, instead of emailing it, which is the general process, can I just print this thing off, hand fill it in, and walk it down to the testing center? Some testing centers do allow that, and it's really up to the testing center. We do prefer that all of them come through the email process, but we did have a few campuses we really wanted to accommodate in that way. Keep in mind, this proctoring form can also be used for face-to-face classes on the campus. So let's say that campus is doing a makeup test. You're not sending it out, you're not blasting it out statewide. You just want the Marion Testing Center, in my example, to deliver that makeup test. That's the kind of thing that that version, in addition to helping out Mac users, that was the real intent of that kind of hand version of the form. Does that answer the question? So I
We'll
would say
give,
90% of the time, go ahead and email it unless you have a direct conversation with your testing center. You want to use that other version.
okay.
I'm sorry, I cut someone off.
No, that's okay. We'll let Felix get a chance to reply in their question panel. But while he's doing that, Zach also has a question. Do all online exams require proctoring? I'm teaching Intro to Interpersonal and have 3 exams to give, but the Canvas page doesn't specify that it must be proctored. I was really asking if we fill out and scan email. Oh, I'm sorry. That was the end of Zach's. So Zach, if you're teaching a communications course, which is part of the statewide online library, you'll notice that you are required to do proctoring in 2 different locations. One, it would be in your instructor resource guide, and then also built right into the syllabus, if a course requires you to come to campus for proctoring, it's built in to the syllabus document as well. If you're not seeing any indication that students are required to come to campus for proctoring, then your particular class doesn't require that. Felix's response to your follow-up question, Brian, is sure. I was really just asking if we fill out, scan, and email as opposed to filling out an online form. Looks like we
Oh,
need to
okay. Yeah.
print a paper form. Felix, in addition to what Brian is sharing with you, there are built-in tutorials to the Faculty Resource Center if you want to follow up and review that process as well.
Yeah, and you'll also see something similar that I think may answer your question here in my FAQ too. So yeah, hang on, we might get to that as well. Was there any other questions I could hit before I go on?
I think we're good,
Okay.
Brian. Thank you.
All right. So hopefully that answers some questions. Where do I find the form? Where do I find the instructions? Where do I find information on where to send my proctoring form? The answer is testing services link on the Faculty Resource Center. That's where to go. And I listed here on this next slide, these are all the things you're going to find on that testing services page. We just went through these. Of course, this is where you find the proctoring form, your instructions, where to send, all that kind of good stuff. So ideally, in a perfect world, faculty would submit their proctoring form for midterm and or final local testing center within the first week of class. I think that, you know, faculty may believe that they have to have the actual test completed before you send in the proctoring form. Answer that's at no. You know, you're just letting us know, you know, what the passcode is and where to find it. So the sooner the better, truly, especially for 8-week courses. Second week of class, the local testing center will check for completeness and make the form available to all testing centers statewide. Third week, we really prefer students not to start sending in schedule requests until the third week of class, especially if your course that you're teaching has some sort of embedded certification exam into it. So third week of class, faculty advising students to begin requesting appointments. And then midterms and finals, or if this is a non-midterm or final test, whenever they show up to test, we'll be able to administer that exam using the proctoring form. So that's our perfect world timeline. I'm not going to read through these all, but just some things that that the testing centers wanted to share with you to make your lives a little easier, hopefully. Again, we reiterated the fact that proctoring forms can be submitted as soon as you know the exam dates and the passcode. Please send that form in, get it in. Please indicate the location of the exam on the proctoring form, and that's part of the instructions. You know, if it's in module 16, tell us module 16. And that just really helps when the student is sitting down to take the test. They're already nervous. You know, that no one likes to take tests, especially proctored tests. So we want the student experience to be as smooth as possible. We don't want our proctor having to, you know, look 1,000 different places to try to find that test. So if it's on the form, here's where it is. The proctor can go right to it and launch that test without causing undue anxiety for the students. I think the only other one that I'll mention here is your testing center may return a proctoring form to you if there's missing information. And the reason we're doing that is we want to make sure that student is able to have you know, an irregularity-free experience during that process. So okay, so let's get to my FAQ. I think we've covered the MAC question already. See, I told you it was my first one on the list. And here's the second one. Rather than emailing the form, I'd like to hand deliver the form to my local testing center. Can I do that? And I think I've answered that as well. And the answer to that is check with your testing center for that first, because it does vary from center to center. And then right along with that, I think these two FAQs go together. Why do I need to submit my form as a Word document, not a PDF? You know, we do get the question, can I just scan this thing and email a PDF? And the answer is no, and there's a reason why. Because sometimes we have to remember, your students are everywhere in the state. So there are times when the testing center is going to have to manipulate that form. If the passcode changes or the testing window changes, we may not have time to get a new form from you. If it's Wednesday of finals week and the passcode changes, we got to let the rest of the state know that password has changed. We got to let them know now. And to do that, we need to be able to manipulate that Proctor form. The best way to do that is if it's in a Word document, not a PDF. So hopefully that answers the why we can't do this via PDF. Is that we're trying to, in real time, keep that proctoring form as up to date as possible. When would a Proctor form be sent back to me for corrections? If it's missing information, there's no contact information, there's no course information, or there's no time limit on the test. Every proctored exam that's done in the testing center has to have a time limit. It's incorrect file name on the document. We talked about the file name. And sometimes we'll notice discrepancies. Like if we're getting forms from all over the state for Accounting 101, and every proctoring form in the state says no calculator, and there's one proctoring form from one campus that says calculator, we might question that and ask about that, because usually what programs want is that consistent delivery of the tests. So we're not questioning you, we're just questioning whether this is maybe there was a mistake or something, or what, because we're trying to maintain that level of consistency. Are there statewide courses where the proctoring form's already set up for faculty? Like if there is a statewide, yes, this test will always have a calculator and scratch paper, no matter where it's taught or delivered. Yes. We're working with Online Technology, who works with the curriculum committees, to set up some more statewide proctoring forms that has all the stuff pre-filled in for you. We don't have a lot of those yet. We're getting there. I'm teaching a course that includes a third-party certification exam. Do I need to fill out and submit a proctoring form? Not really, but if you do, it won't hurt. Faculty have told us, and I agree, that they don't want to. You don't want to have to guess when a proctoring form is required and when it's not, right? I wouldn't want to have to guess. So fill one out, send it in, just so you don't have to guess when and when you don't have to. Will my students find it harder to make an appointment the longer they wait to schedule? Part of the reason why I showed you those numbers at the beginning of the presentation, the answer is yes. Students can begin scheduling the third week of class. Truly, if they wait until the week before midterms or finals, they're going to have a difficult time scheduling. Just the nature of the capacity that we've got. If they schedule early, we can usually make things happen. How do I know if allowable materials have been set and approved by my program curriculum committee? Sometimes things like calculators or scratch paper or whatever are decided at the curriculum committee level. If you have questions about that, I would ask you to talk with your program chair, your dean, or your course mentor for that information. They're the ones who would know that. And then any advice on creating passcodes or passwords? Make it simple, but not too simple, I guess is the rule of thumb. Please no spaces at the beginning or ending of the passcode. And just remember, proctors all over the state will be physically typing this in for every student in the course. So keep that in mind, but don't make it so easy that it's easily guessable by your students. Do I need to submit a course roster with my proctoring form? We had this question earlier, I believe, with the hybrid. Generally, no. Use of the roster page is really only in those instances outlined on the form and in the instructions, usually for things outside of online courses, things like makeup exams or special accommodations, things like that. And then where do I send the form? We've already covered this. You'll send the form to your campus testing center for which you're teaching. And I wanted to give you the link to our webpage, the testing services webpage as well, because this gives you information on where we're located throughout the state, who to contact if you don't know your testing center. You can find our contact information here if you want to know who to contact in each testing center. This also is a really good place to send your students, because it gives a direct link to our scheduling platform, Schedule Now, where students can schedule for their test. That's important. But it also gives them other things too, like what to expect in the testing center. What am I getting myself into by going into a testing center? What can I bring? What can't I bring? Those are questions we get often. So I wanted to give you that website as well, so you knew where to direct students for those questions. And there is a link to our website as well on the Faculty Resource Center. So last thing I wanted to say before I open it up for our last few questions is, again, thanks. Our role is one of support. We want to support you. We want to support your students. We want to support the administration of exams in a way that that is fair, that upholds academic integrity, promotes confidentiality, and promotes security, and also promotes great customer service for your students. And so just wanted to end that with a thank you, and hopefully we can continue to improve the process. And we're always here to help in your local testing center. What questions do we have out there? We've got about 10 minutes, it looks like, that we didn't cover today.
Okay. Brian, looks like we have at least two questions. Jeff asks or says, my exams are online in my math lab. Will testing services be able to find the exam?
Yes, we will. And that's a great example. Not all, and I should have mentioned those, not all exams, as you know, live within the IvyLearn environment. There's an external partner like My Math Lab or others that are out there. As long as you note that on the proctoring form, where under location, tell us it's in My Math Lab. Jennifer or Lacey, do you have, especially My Math Lab, I know we get that one a lot, are there specific things that you like to see on the proctoring form on location for those?
Yeah, I think it's helpful if they have like step-by-step instructions. If it's like, okay, go to testout.com and then click on this. So the more detail you can give us, especially if it's something that we don't see very often, the better. Because surprisingly, students don't always know how to navigate their own course. So we may be the ones finding the test for the student.
Did that answer the question?
I think so. Thank you, Lacey. Our next question is, can students schedule for the whole semester starting the third week of class? Linda says that she has had students who tried to set up their exams for the whole semester and they were unable to. Linda also says that she turns in all of her proctor forms in before class starts.
Yeah, the only thing that would stop the student from being able to schedule their tests for the whole year would be if we didn't have the proctoring form. But if you've already submitted your proctoring forms, then that's not the issue then. Lacey or Jennifer, there be any other reason why I'm just trying to think through.
Yeah, like here in Indianapolis, students can schedule up to 30 days in advance. So, for a spring or a fall semester, our dates for finals aren't going to be available by that third week of class.
Thank you, Lacey. That's what I needed to remember. Yeah, when each campus sets up their own schedule in self-serve, they are given an option to provide what we call an end days out, meaning the last day we can set up for scheduling. And that's really up to the campus testing center. Some have it set for 30 days, some 60, some 90. So that could be a reason that's happening. So I would, maybe just talk with your testing center, and then they can be a voice to the rest of the group. We meet regularly. The testing centers meet regularly. So if you mention that to your local testing center, or to me, to send me an email, if we're really having trouble with that, we can talk about it as a group. But right now, that is a campus setting.
Okay, great. As we wait for a couple other questions come in, Brian, do you mind if I point out where we're having a few questions come in about ProctorU? Do you mind if I take over control for just a moment and go back into our IvyLearn platform?
Yep, go for it.
Thank you. Okay, so we had a few questions come in, and I want to make sure that you understand the information that you want to share. So if you're part of our IVYC 112 online mentoring program, in the announcements in your courses, there was a link as well to our latest ProctorU presentation. But that's also located on our YouTube channel. And then it'll also be located in our Faculty Resource Center. So if you go into our Help tab to the Faculty Resource Center, and when you're logging in, you want to make sure that you are in your correct Google account. So if you go up here to your Google area, you want to make sure that you're using your Ivy Tech account and not a personal account. So just a little bit of a heads up on how you want to make sure you're interacting with Ivy Tech content. So once you're in the Faculty Resource Center, you can go here into Content, and then you can actually search by video. So there's this little video icon here. And you'll see that a lot of the presentations that we've been offering throughout the year are located here. You can click on any one of these links to watch a video, or you can go to YouTube and just pick up IvyLearn in your search bar. If you want to be more specific, you can do IvyLearn ProctorU. Oops. Content partner. And I know we just added ProctorU here not too long ago, so you can scroll through this page to find our recent presentation. And again, this will also be in our Faculty Resource Center. The other place that you can find this information, especially for students, we also have a Student Resource Center, and students have access to the ProctorU information as well. So in the Student Resource Center, what other services do I need? And there's information about testing in here. There's testing, and there's the link to ProctorU. So both faculty and students have access to that. Okay. The other thing, there seems like there was still some confusion about how and what kind of information we should be able to give to our friends in the testing center about test location. So if I can, let me see if I can clarify that by actually going into a class. I'm going to go into my demo course. So let's say my Psychology 101 course required proctored exams. Again, as a faculty member, I'm going to know that by looking when I'm teaching an online course, by going to my Faculty Resource Center, or looking at my syllabus document. When you're filling out the form, I recommend going into the modules index view. So you can say, all right, you're going to find the test in Module 1, and you're going to look for it mini quiz for Module 1, Step 3. And I'm going to be very specific about the labeling and what test they're looking for. By telling them it's in Module 1 and the name of the test, that helps our friends in the testing center locate that information. Jennifer or Lacey or Brian, I want to make sure that we're on the same page with that. Is there anything additional information they should include?
No, I think that should be just fine for an exam in IvyLearn.
Okay, Great, thank you.
Yeah, and that gives a good example too. We're saying module 1 may not be quite enough information because it looks like there are multiple tests here. Again, we want to be sure we're delivering the right test. So yeah, as much detail as possible is great.
Okay. All right, I want to take a moment. We're glad to take additional questions, but I definitely want to thank Brian, Lacey, Jennifer, and Rebecca, our entire testing services team who works so diligently to make this work for our students. I know they do spend a lot of hours with a lot of stressed out students, especially at midterms and finals. So thank you for taking the time to share your knowledge with us today. We certainly do appreciate that.